Hey everyone, J-Funk here. And this is my Mythic Queen Azshara, Windwalker Monk commentary slash guide. This will be my last commentary slash guide for this tier, the Eternal Palace. I will continue to do these videos next tier as well. But because this is the last one of this tier, I wanted to make it more special, put more effort into it. So, here we go. I'm going to go over the essences, talents, and trinkets that I recommend for using for this fight. So firstly, for essences, I would recommend using for the major slot. I'd recommend using Iris or Condensed Life Force, and then for the minors, I'd recommend using Confidence Strife and Crucible of Flame. Now, deciding between the majors here, I use Iris in our kill because our ad damage on the Azshara's devoted ads in phase 2 was kind of low, and a lot of them were living too long. So I switched to Iris so that we could consistently kill these ads fast enough. It really depends on your group comp and if you're killing the ads fast enough. If you are and you don't need this extra damage, then you should probably use Condensed Life Force. Now, when it comes to trinkets, I recommend using a combination of these three. I would 100% recommend using the Cyclotronic Blast trinket for your on use. If you want to use double on use and get a little bit more value out, then you can use the Razor Coral trinket as your second trinket. But if you aren't a fan of double on use, you can use the Dribbling Ink Pod for your second trinket as well. And then lastly, for talents, I'd recommend, this is the talents that I use in our kill. And for the 15 talent row, I use Chi Wave. This is because it allows me to keep up hit combo during the intermissions easily. And without having Chi Wave, I cannot do this. But if you don't like Chi Wave or you're not comfortable using it, then you can use the other two options as well. They're both really good. And top parses on this fight use all three different talents, so really just preference there. But without further ado, let's get into the fight, and I will explain what's going on per phase. Okay, this is phase 1 of the fight. You'll see I start the fight over here near the melee ad, and you'll see me use my Razor Coral immediately, and then Iris, and then SEF. I'm going to save my 2-minute cooldowns for about 30 seconds into the fight when the overzealous Hulk ad spawns, because we need to kill this Hulk as soon as possible. Now in phase 1, there is a mythic throughout the fight. There's this mythic mechanic, the new mythic mechanic for this fight, called Divide and Conquer, where Azshara will summon this line throughout the arena that will take a few seconds to form, but if you walk through the line when it's active, it will immediately kill you. And this causes the room to be kind of divided in half. And you'll see here, the line spawn here, and I try to maintain as much uptime as I can on this, but you'll see that my Summerth and Fire Spirits can walk through this line no problem and not die. That's kind of a nice thing for us. But I do as much damage as I can on this ad, then I go to this ad in phase 1, and for this phase, all I'm trying to do is face the Charge Spears away. You'll see earlier, I stood in a Lightning Orb on purpose so that I could proc my Touch of Karma. That's pretty much the whole phase here. Now, after this phase, will be the first intermission. Now, the first intermission, there's a new mechanic on Mythic. Well, not a new mechanic necessarily, just it adds to the additional mechanics of the fight. So instead of getting 1 decree, like you did on Heroic, and Mythic you get 2 decrees. Now you see we have these markers placed down throughout the room. This is to let everyone know where to stand once they get a certain combination of decrees. We have a weak aura that's telling us exactly where to do and what to do and where to go for the decrees. I can link that down in the description below. But besides this, there really isn't that much going on. But I will kind of guide you through what you should be doing for the decrees for Windwalker. Basically, the easiest one that you can get is Solo Move. And if you ever get a combination of... If you ever get like a one where you have to be stationary, like a soaking one, then I would recommend trying to keep hit combo up as much as possible while also healing. You'll see me that here, where I keep healing. I try to maintain hit combo as best I can, and just spam Vivifies. Get off heals out. This is the first intermission. Important thing to note here is that if you're make sure that you're not targeting Azshara if you are running Chi Wave, because when you're affected by a decree, Azshara will make you target her over and over again, but she's unattackable during this intermission, which can kind of mess up your chi wave, and you can kind of drop your hit combo by accident if this happens. But after the intermission here, we do our mechanics. We just go, I walked over where Azshara is going to spawn, and then I just get ready for phase 2. So the phase 2, the start here, I'm just trying to build as much chi as possible. And you'll see me right here. I cast Touch of Karma, and then I cancel my Fist of Fury into Electronic Blast. Now you want to wait until the blast channel starts, because when you step inside these Cursed Heart Void Zones, they lower the amount of haste you have. And if you step into the Void Zone, the lower haste Void Zone, before the channel starts, your channel will be slower. Make sure you do that. You're also soaking for Karma. Then I soak there, then I roll out. Now, this is where phase 2 gets interesting. So what's going to happen here is, you see in the bottom right here, I have Hrothgar's as my focus. And you'll see that he has these debuffs of Drain Soul. Now, Drain Soul is a mechanic on this fight where it lowers your max HP. I wait for Hrothgar's to get 6 stacks, and then I go in and get 7 stacks. And then right after this mechanic happens, there's going to be, you'll see that there's going to be Azshara's Devoted ads spawning. They've already spawned. Now, how we deal with these ads is we wait for them to walk to the middle, and then we're going to have our Warlock, Enza, use his AoE stun to stun them, and then we're going to try to kill them as much as possible, and if they're still alive after the stun, then I use Ring of Peace. I should probably mention that before the fight even started, I placed my Transcendence behind the Council at the south edge of the room, so that, because there's going to be a divide and conquer that spawns here, that if based on the RNG of where it spawns, I could be cut off from where I need to be standing, and having that Transcendence down allows me to get to where I need to go in this phase and stay for longer and AoE these ads for longer than I normally would be able to. And you'll see here, this is why I ran Iris. These ads need to die immediately, as fast as possible. And if they live for too long and the middle gets too much energy, it can be very bad. We're trying to kill these as much as possible. I'm channeling Iris, and then I get in there, do a little bit of AoE. You'll see I do a Ring of Peace there, just prevent them from using their ability. And then you'll see I teleport with my Transcendence, and then I stand behind this Council, and I drop my Arcane Vulnerability stacks. Arcane Vulnerability is a very important mechanic from phase 2 onward. How Arcane Vulnerability works is, if every time you're in line of sight of Azshara, she will pulse this AoE. You'll see right below my target frame, there is a weak aura that tells me the next stack of this AoE when it's about to happen. And this increases the arcane damage that you take. So you want to prevent getting too many stacks because you have a low amount of HP in this fight. For me, I was getting about 3, 4, maybe 5 stacks of this debuff in phase 2. But I recommend staying around 2 to 3 stacks if you have this many debuffs. But all this really equates to, gameplay-wise, is being in line of sight, waiting, watching my debuff till I have 4 stacks. I get 4 stacks, and then I a little west behind the Council, and then I go back out and hit her again. That's all this phase is for me. You'll see we're using what we called the Redacted strat, but we're going to stop DPS around 72% and let the Indomitable ad spawn, and let it go into the middle, and then we're going to soak the energy that it gave the ward. This is because we did this strategy because we didn't have the DPS to consistently skip this ad in phase 2. If we did, and on subsequent kills, I'd imagine we'll probably transition to a strategy that tries to skip this ad. But because we're not skipping this ad, we're going to stop DPS so we don't push her at a bad time, so people have time to soak. Oh yeah, there's another mechanic on this fight, in this phase, called Arcane Burst. You can get Arcane Burst. What you can do as Windwalker if you get Arcane Burst is you go behind, you LOS, where you see the raptor is, and then you get dispelled. As Windwalker Monk, you can use diffuse magic to dispel yourself, but be careful to make sure that when you dispel yourself that you are not within LOS of Azshara, because if you are, you'll give her this buff that makes her subsequent Arcane Burst cast, like it gives them an additional Arcane Burst will go out. So usually you only have 3, but if she has a stack of this buff, she'll cast 4 Arcane Bursts. This is very bad and very avoidable, so make sure that you don't get dispelled in the LOS. So you'll see the Indomitable ad spawns here. We stop DPS, and where the Indomitable ad spawns is complete RNG. But what I do here is I'm just trying to keep up hit combo during this time, and I'm going to taunt this ad, because when I taunt it, it'll move faster. If it moves faster, it means we can get the energy faster, which means we can soak faster. And you'll also see me walk over to near skull marker here in a second to place my Transcendence down. This is also because I want this to avoid another divide and conquer line that's upcoming in the next phase. But soon we will be approaching phase 2, or the second intermission. Now, in the second intermission is very similar to the first intermission, but this time Azshara is active and you can hit her. So depending on the RNG of the decrees that you get, you can maintain uptime on the boss. So you see here, I got decrees which allowed me to keep hitting the boss during the intermission. It's either this decree that you can get that allows you to hit the boss, or if you're a melee, you can get solo move and you can go behind the boss here and hit her. But we're upcoming into phase 3. Phase 3 has a lot going on, a lot that I need to explain. When phase 3 happens, there's going to be a loyal Myrmidon that spawns. This Myrmidon is similar to the ad in phase 1. This Myrmidon will cast a spear on a target within LOS. It will prioritize ranged DPS with its spears. And then there will be 3 Siren ads that will spawn. You'll see there I have a timer that says active. I'm going to cast, I saved all my cooldowns for these ads. So I'm assigned to this melee group that's going to try to kill this melee Siren as soon as possible. I'm going to use all of my cooldowns on this melee Siren ad, and I'm going to Transcendence to the second ad. And once we get to the second ad, I can explain a little bit more. You'll see here, I'm trying to soak as soon as possible, so I'm casting my SCF beforehand, then I'm TODing, and as soon as I TOD, I go into soak. This is very important for later on in the phase, because I need to soak at a very specific time, and this soaking as soon as I possibly can in this phase allows me to get that soak timing. So you'll see here, we're killing this ad, and then we're going to teleport. And then this is where it's important. So the Myrmidon will cast Charge Spear on a ranged DPS. The ranged DPS should move away, face the spear away from us, but important is melee, make sure you do not get hit by the projectile of the Charge Spear, which means do not be in front of the Charge Spear when it finishes casting, because the projectile will hit you and deal damage, and a large part of this phase is based around reducing the amount of AoE damage that you're taking. What you'll see here, what I try to develop later on in attempts, is that right after the Charge Spear cast goes off, it will fly out to the ocean and then explode. This explosion does a lot of raid damage because we have no HP. To reduce the amount of damage that I'm going to take from this, I'm going to roll into the side of this pillar here on purpose, because I have an exit strategy as a right trait, which gives me about 17% avoidance. So I'm taking 17% less damage from this AoE nuke in this phase, which can save your life. It's very important. Besides that, DPS-wise, I'm going to use my Coral Stacks on Azshara here, and then I'm going to use my SEF, and then we're trying to focus down the Myrmidon and this big ad here as much as possible. Because it's 2 target and I have 4 stacks of Crane Kick, I'm going to just use Crane Kick as much as possible in this phase for most damage. Then once these ads are dead, we're going to move our way over to this last pillar where the last ad is, and a loyal Myrmidon will spawn. Our goal here is to focus the Myrmidon down while breaking the shields. So you'll see this ad over here on the right, Vena Seastorm, already has a crystalline shield. When we break that shield with the spear, she will immediately cast another shield because she's already at full energy. When we break the second shield is then when we can DPS her. Important note is melee, you want to be LOSing behind this pillar as much as possible, because when the shield breaks from the spear, it will do AoE damage to everyone that's in LOS. You see here, the Myrmidon ad spawns. We start DPSing it, and it's very important that this Myrmidon gets only 2 spears off, and don't kill it before the second spear. So the spear is on one of our ranged, they line it up, they break the shield, I'm LOSing, and then you'll see I roll here for the avoidance. And then another shield is cast, and then Myrmidon gets dragged back into LOS. And then I get one of the Arcane Bursts. So Arcane Burst also does happen in this phase. I have the second Arcane Burst, I wait for Sammy's to get dispelled, I go around the corner, I LOS, I diffuse magic, I go back into LOS, and there's another Charged Spear. Here's a second Charged Spear. I roll again, and now we can kill this ad. Now, very important here, because we killed the Myrmidon and because the ad is vulnerable now and you can hit the ad, as a melee DPS, you're very tempted to go in and hit the ad. Very important to notice here is that simultaneously, Azshara is casting Arcane Detonation. You want to wait for this Arcane Detonation to go off first and then go in. We've had many silly deaths because people go in too greedily and die to this detonation. But for me, at this point in the fight, you'll see that my debuff is about to expire in about 17 seconds, my Drained Soul debuff. So I'm trying to stay in LOS of Azshara. I want to use my 2-minute cooldowns before I soak this next time. I'm trying to stay out of LOS of Azshara while also hitting the ad. I'm going to use my TOD on Azshara here and then soak. And I'm also going to use Karma so they don't die to this spear. There's another spear cast that's about to happen here to break the shield. I need to use my Karma there, otherwise I will most likely die to the damage that's going to happen. So here we're just trying to kill this Myrmidon before it gets another charge spear cast off. I don't think we're successful this time, but it's fine. Now we can kill this ad. Now, Azshara will phase into phase 4 whenever all 3 Siren ads die, or she hits 50%. What we're trying to do is line up both, so where we kill the 3rd ad at around 50% HP left on Azshara. And when important to note, when phasing into phase 4, Azshara does not have intermission. She will just phase directly into phase 4. So there's no more decrease from this point on. We kill the ad, right at the same time she hits 50, we're in the last phase. So now we make the call. Everyone needs to LOS and drop their arcane vulnerability stacks before they group up. The ranged and the healers are going to group up behind us there, and because they are waiting to bait the first nether portal. Now, nether portal can only be cast and spawn on ranged and healers. Healers includes Holy Paladins, so Holy Paladin players, make sure that you are not within melee, otherwise you will bait the nether portal. It's possible to bait the nether portal in the incorrect spot. But once this nether portal is baited, we're all going to take a gateway and go back to the council, and this is where we'll LOS again. And shortly after we do that, we're going to deal with our first overload. We're going to have one of our mages ice block and cast the council. You want to have 0 to 2 stacks of arcane vulnerability during this time. But you'll see here comes our mage. First mage is going to cast overload. The reason why the mage ice blocks is because you will get this debuff. This debuff will kill you in 25 seconds and gives you a huge buff, but if you are affected by an immunity, it cannot affect you. Now this buff is mostly irrelevant for Windwalkers, so what this buff does is it increases your haste by 50%. It increases your resource generation, which for us is energy, and it makes all of our stuff instant cast, which doesn't matter for Windwalker. You'll see here that I had never gotten the first overload here, so I use SCF. This was a mistake. I should not have used SCF. You'll also notice the other mechanic in phase 4 here. It's the Eyes in Azoth. Now, so the Eyes in Azoth mechanic on Mythic is very similar to Heroic, except on Mythic there's 4 eyes, I believe. Basically all this means is just, as melee, from your perspective, is just watch your feet and avoid those orange or red lines. But from here on, this phase is pretty simple. I'm just waiting for my debuff to fall off so I can use my 2 minutes. I'm going to die here in a second. There's not much I can do about it. I get battle res immediately. And you'll see where I made the mistake here. Now I don't have a charge of SCF for TOD, but I need to soak. So I end up just using TOD alone, which is very bad. I could have played this a lot better in this last phase, but I was not used to getting that first overload. But at this point, so I should mention, besides when you're dealing with overload and clicking the council, you can be at about 10 stacks of arcane vulnerability in this phase. You're completely safe at higher stacks. But if you're clicking the council, you need to be at lower stacks. You'll notice I soak, my debuff falls up, I use all my cooldowns, I'm going to be soaking again. My last Drained Soul soak for the whole fight. I soak here. I think I use Fuse Magic at some point here. When I get my stacks, here comes the next set of Piercing Gazes. Eyes in Azoth. And from here on out, the fight's pretty much over. There really isn't much going on. And yeah, I mean, you've pretty much done it. All you have to do now is make sure you don't die to baiting the nether portal as melee. Make sure you just LOSing and not getting too many vulnerability stacks. Don't die to divide and conquer, and dodge the eyes. That's pretty much the whole fight. I will be making these videos next year as well. Let me know what you think. Hopefully these help out. Let me know what you think of these videos. If they helped, what can I improve? If you want to see these kills live, make sure to check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/jfunkgaming. But that's gonna do it for me for this tier, for this series of videos. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next year.
Soak the middle. Have the boss soak the middle. Have the boss soak the middle. We're surging. We're surging. Anyone can soak console. Soak console. GG.
Come on, baby! Come shot, Strangler! When I say come shot, you say Strangler! Come shot!
It was
Strangler! Come shot!
It was
Oh,
Oh, I got thick. Me and Sammy.
What did Sammy's get it?
what the hell?
Korean, bro.
Oh.